why we think the way we think. So thank you for listening. Hi, and welcome back once again to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions, which is a fancy way of saying we get stories that have some sort of moral, ethical question. We publish them, and then some of them that we really like, we do a podcast and we discuss them. And our hope is that you'll read the story and that you'll have the same kind of discussions with your friends about, what would I do? How would it work? What's the nature of goodness or truth, or what does it mean to be alive, or all the things that we discuss. A lot of them in AI stuff lately, computer stuff, except last week, which was about cannibalism. We all decided we were cannibals at heart.
Read the story; it'll make sense.
Because all meat eating is non-consensual.
Hashtag I eat people.
Hashtag I eat people.
Start a movement.
Start the movement. I am your co-host Colby. This is co-host Ashley wearing she's wearing the shirt today.
For those watching on YouTube, you can actually see the shirt.
Yeah.
It's basically Jeremy's hashtag. So I was researching this
He says that in every episode. He's required to by law.
He's really good. He does a lot of research. He reads a lot.
It's the same. Like, I feel like if there was a shirt for me, it would say, I don't understand.
No.
Or let me give you a hypothetical. Maybe that's what mine would be. I don't know.
So according to ...
Yeah. According to, and of course, we're also co-hosting with Jeremy, who does our audio and does a great job, and also researches stuff, unlike the other rest of us who just wing it.
We're wingers.
And we are once again hosted by La Gatara, the cat cafe in Tempe, Arizona, that have cats you can come visit or you can adopt. They've adopted over 500, probably 600 by the time you watch this, cats. And they've always got new cats, and they run the gambit from like older sleepy cats to young, fun, spunky kittens, and they're just rock stars. This one's pretty awesome as well. And again, if you're having a good time doing this, like, subscribe, and more importantly, tell your friends. The vast majority of podcasts that people try out are not because of an advertisement, but because a friend recommended it and was like, yo, dude, did you hear about blah, 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 Ask Me Another or whatever, and they do it. So suggest it to a friend. And also, last thing, we have a book that's come out, After Dinner Conversation Season 1, which is 25 of our best short stories that ask ethical questions with all of the discussion questions at the end of each story. So there are even children's stories in there. You can buy that on Amazon as an ebook or as a print book, which is super cool. I'm super jazzed about
that. So if you have a great story, submit it. Send it on in.
Yeah.
If you love reading stories and want to help us filter to get into our kind of genre of ethical dilemmas, be a reader.
Yeah, that'd be
tons
great.
Of stories. So
we send it out to readers as our initial screeners. Honestly, for about every 10 stories we get, about 2 or 3 are the kind of thing we do, the kind of ethical questions. And of those 2 or 3, maybe 1 is actually
give people hope.
No, it's
you're going to get submitted. You're going to be on the podcast.
You're going to be different, though.
You're going to be selected.
Point is, don't just send us writing. Send us writing that's the kind of thing that we read and publish. That helps us, and it also keeps the readers from wasting a bunch of time. Okay, so our last story is Abrams. Is that Abrama, which apparently is the version of Abraham. Abrama's Endgame. I forgot. Written by, this is the second story by this guy who did it, David Schultz, who did the one that was here with Jessica that blew us away. Rainbow People of the Glittering Glade was, up until that point at least,
a great story.
The best story we had read or discussed. This is equally good. Yeah, solid. I don't know who is discussing this one. Is it me? Maybe I haven't discussed one in a while.
That's you. You discuss it. You're taking
I'll discuss it. So Abrama's, I'm going to keep mispronouncing that. Abrama's Endgame is about a massively multiplayer online game. And so it starts off a little bit weird in that there's a character like an elf or somebody walking through like a village, and you're like, oh, it's a fantasy story. There's like elves and dwarves and stuff. And then you realize that some of the elves and dwarves are like of another world and some are not, but they all look the same. And what you then realize is it jumps back and you realize it's actually a character in an online game. Like, what was the one that you played forever? You got lost.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. Yeah. But the character, actually knows it's a character in the game. And and other people are, are leaving and coming and going, and some of them are just avatars that are just like, idiot bots. And the thing that's so cool about it is the reason that this one particular bot in the game is so smart is because the game developers opened up the code to allow researchers to experiment with AI by creating individual AI bots in the game to learn and write papers and learn about how AI would react in a real world, and in this case, in a simulated world.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like a constructed world where you could try out theory.
Right.
Of how AI interacts with real people.
Right. And I feel like this is the next step.
Oh, I think this is
because I know,
future.
like with World of Warcraft, researchers were analyzing the data.
Yeah.
Especially when there were events that acted like virus outbreaks.
Yeah, the virus outbreak when they killed everybody in World of Warcraft.
Right.
Yeah.
Killed all the NPCs.
Yeah, because it spread just like a virus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so ultimately what happens is because people are gold farming and it's in violation of some cryptocurrency law that's been passed, the government is going to shut down the game. And they
see it as a threat because the game has a currency called GP or gold points. This can be exchanged anonymously. It's a free market, totally anonymous, no way of tracking.
Yeah.
They can trade with US dollars at an exchange rate of 1,000 gold points or GPs per $7. So this exchange is happening, and now the game itself, Land of Legends, has like a $2 billion GDP, and they're like, we have to regulate this.
And of course, the implication is so let's say I wanted to do something illegal, buy drugs or deal in whatever horrible things. I could go into the game, buy with real currency. I could buy the in-game currency. I could then trade that in-game currency with another person
for a real world
currency. They'd cash it out again, and they would then give me the thing I wanted.
Yeah.
And so it would be a perfect way to either buy or sell illegal things or to do money laundering, because it's untrackable money.
Legends wasn't intended to function as a perfect digital black market, guaranteeing anonymity and a stable exchange rate and encrypted transaction. And it's super popular.
Right.
And it made the system illegal. It's illegal technically, but
there's no way to track the sales. And so the government steps in to shut it down because it's being used for black market stuff and it's illegal, and there's no way to track sales.
Like, how do we tax people?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can't.
Right. And so the AI finds this out and wants to defend its realm, defend itself from having its servers turned off.
Right.
And so and there's so many clever things about this story. The super clever thing the AI does is they use their currency. The AI uses its in-game currency to interact with real people and ask the real people to do real things in the real world.
They ask these rebels to
like a hacker group.
Get some dirt. So if they try to shut us down, we can blackmail them.
Right. And so
that's a very clever way they do it.
Right. And so they create basically a dead man switch where the real people do work and trade for the fake gold because they can cash it out. And then the bots, the AI in the game, now has essentially government secrets, and they ping the server every hour. And if the pinging ever stops, everything gets decrypted
and released.
And all the government secrets are out there. Right. And so they've essentially made it now where the government can't shut off the server.
Right.
So they've basically defended their realm by interacting with real people and making them do work. And then the government tries to step in, and there's a battle in sort of like the third act. The government is not successful, and there's essentially a stalemate where the government can no longer shut down these servers.
And so they go in and sign a peace agreement.
Yeah, peace agreement. Yeah, virtual peace agreement. And then the story's over. And I will tell you, man, I think 5 to 7 years.
I'll tell you,
I think this is super near future.
This story is so complex because not only do you have the players in the game, like this is their world. This is their life. Like they don't know that they're basically in a video game. You have the researcher who's implanting these people and doing research studies on it. You've got the government that's like, we've got to regulate this. We've got to tax them somehow. You've got rebels who are like, this is a way for us to make more money, like using it for bad purposes.
Yeah.
And then you've got, people who just want to play their video game. Like it sounds harmless. Like it's a video game. How do you tax it? What they say? They wanted to tax a character.
the value.
How much should the U.S. government tax imaginary creatures?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what? Like, this is so, it's a world within a world, and they successfully defend themselves. It's just so interesting.
So Jeremy, you played a lot of, you and I, because I wrote a law school paper on EVE Online and about contracts and partnership agreements that are de facto partnership agreements in online worlds. You played a lot more than I did, not just EVE Online, but also World of Warcraft.
And just those two, mainly.
Yeah. What was your thought on reading this as a person who actually has put hundreds of hours at least?
I mean, from a technical point of view, it seems like the idea. I mean, we have EVE Online is a good example where there is an official exchange rate,
and they actually permit money to go in and out of their currency.
Absolutely,
in the game,
So there's an official exchange.
Remember, you cost me money when you got my ship blown up. You cost me like $10 when I had to go back and buy more currency to buy a new ship.
Blowing up ships.
No, he did. He honestly did that. I used my real U.S. money to buy in-game currency. I think it's called ISK. I then bought a ship and was like, all right, Jeremy, let's go raiding. And he made some silly mistake. Like he popped out of a portal too early and I popped out too late or whatever. And I got blown up instantly.
Oh, no.
And my first thought was like, dude, you just cost me like $10.
So, okay. So I had a roommate who, to get through grad school, he was a big time online gamer, like would play for 48 hours straight. Mm-hmm. And he would build up these characters and sell them. Yeah. And that's how he paid his way through grad school. It is literally a trade.
Yeah.
Like he has a skill set. Why not? Like there's a supply and demand. People want to have these higher end characters because they love the game and want to build up more and blah, blah, blah. And there's a service.
It's something for World of Warcraft what they've had to address. And there's a whole system now that helps you build characters faster, or you come in at a higher level with the newer versions.
But that totally just blew away all their hardcore people that made a career out of building characters. That was the way to
and they moved to something else.
Yeah.
So what about one of the questions in here is about how, like, so you and I think Ashley all think this is not far-fetched.
Oh,
right. And some of it's going to happen sooner than other parts of it.
Right. I think the AI
is going to take the longest.
Yeah. But I think using online games to test AI,
Absolutely.
Even rudimentary, I think that's not far away at all. If it's not already happening already. The question that I thought, I'm curious to hear your opinion on, what do you think about the sort of bias that, since you and I have played in these games, we understand them. So if you were to go and talk to someone else, someone who hasn't played online games, why do you think there's this idea of like, oh, that's just stupid. People pay real money for fake gold. Like, you think that they can defend themselves? You think, like, how do you think that comes about, that we bring ourselves to this, like, I think there's a lot of people who would think this is just hooey, which is probably the word they would use if they thought that.
Right. The idea of going in and exchanging money for a fake currency.
For just fakeness. And it's all fake. Everything's fake. The people are fake.
What about casinos where you go in and buy chips?
Yep.
Oh, man,
it's a video game.
You totally just ended my question right there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing these are headset mics and not, because you would have just dropped that mic. Yeah.
Just drop a cat. Just kidding. They land on all
fours. Because they're just little blue chips that we just decide have value, which is the same thing with paper money.
Exactly.
It's just little green pieces of paper we decide have money,
have
value.
Yeah.
So online currency is basically the same thing.
And one of the people in the story, her reason for defending using online currency is that part of her research was that the software agents, the people that she created, they're equal participants, and their behavior can be made to approximate human participants. Yeah. It's kind of an economic Turing test in a way, conducted through virtual marketing activity. So it's a way of them kind of testing human behavior. Like, how much research is she getting out of this? I'm like, that's super valuable. Is there another way to do that?
Yeah.
Or is there not another way to do that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? You can do it with an AI bot in a game because you don't have to worry about creating a body.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to create the Android. You can just create the software.
Yeah.
And so it's a much easier way, and you can reiterate faster.
And she said she's done thousands of these characters, and then she's deactivated some of them if as a failed project. For me, that was the most interesting.
The deactivating?
No, the fact that she's running this experiment, and then towards the end, she goes to Abrama and is like, I'm your creator. I can talk to her. And I'm just like, wow, it's like this real living being. And here's like her God, like, this is my child.
Right.
This is my child. And we'll figure out something together. I just thought that was so awesome. I know that's me geeking out right now.
No, I totally get that geeking out.
I thought it was cool. It's like I created this life, and then look at him.
She felt an obligation to tell them, like, "Hey, your end is coming."
Exactly.
Like if you're gonna do heroin, do it now.
No, but it's this. It's
It's always about heroin.
Her intentions for me were just so pure, and she understands there's byproduct badness of it. But again, it's this: does the good outweigh the bad? Like, hey, all the good of the research.
So let me ask you this, Ashley. What about let's say this really happened. So let's say that somebody came to you and was like, "Hey, just so you know, like this is all a game. This is not like you were an experiment of mine. We're shutting it down pretty soon." Hi, this is Colby, and you are listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions. But you already knew that, didn't you? If you'd like to support what we do at After Dinner Conversation, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/After Dinner Conversation. That's right. For as little as $5 a month, you can support thoughtful conversations like the one you're listening to. And as an ad incentive for being a Patreon supporter, you'll get early access to new short stories and ad-free podcasts, meaning you'll never have to listen to this blurb again. At higher levels of support, you'll be able to vote on which short stories become podcast discussions. And you'll even be able to submit questions for us to discuss during these podcasts. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being the kind of person that supports thoughtful discussion. Let's say this really happened. So let's say that somebody came to you and was like, "Hey, just so you know, like this is all a game. This is not like you were an experiment of mine. We're shutting it down pretty soon." Would you believe them?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing they would say.
I would. It would be like putting on a pair of glasses, and I'd be like, "Wait, what? Like, hold on, let me put my glasses on and off, on and off." Like, I would probably react just like they did. Like, we need to assemble, we need to educate, we need to form. Like, we need to.
So oddly enough, that's one of my only faults in this story. Is the thing that you're talking about is how quickly the main character believes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, she knew all along, though. She knew there's outsiders and then there's us.
That's right. She could somehow see the difference in behavior
because she's a higher end algorithm.
And learned their language and.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
So it wasn't like she was just like, but the way that all the other characters fully believed her, granted, she did have this higher authority. She was a queen. Like, people believed what she said, that sort of a thing.
Yeah. So would anything change then? Assuming somebody told you that, would you change your behavior at all? Knowing that you weren't real, but you felt real?
The thing is, wasn't the concept if you're one of these characters and you died off, you were dead? Or would they repopulate? I guess that's...
I don't think it was really explained very well.
Yeah.
In real games, you would repopulate, but in this game, I think you probably are just dead.
You don't respawn.
I think only the real people respawn.
Yeah.
But the game.
So I would go about being like, no, my life is. I have meaning.
Still my life. Yeah.
I don't want to die.
Okay, so it wouldn't change your behavior.
I would be much more suspicious of the outsiders and try to grab more information of what's happening in the outside world. Who's ruling me? Who's this person?
Yeah. Elon Musk has a whole thing where he's talked about it. I think it's a 50-50 chance it would be someone else's simulation.
It's greater than 50-50 is what he says.
Oh, you really?
Right. If you look at it in a statistical sense, it's a much higher percentage chance that we're living in a
someone else's created world.
Yes.
That's depressing. What did you think, Jeremy?
So really? Like, he thinks, he thinks there's
a more than 50% chance that we're in someone else's simulation.
Interesting.
What did you think of the Moore's Law question? Like, the question was, do you think Moore's Law should assuming it applies to AI, do you think that should concern us? That if we can make something as smart as us, so let's say in the case of Abrama, like she's relatively, I think it's a woman, right?
Yeah.
She's relatively smart in this. She's able to defend her own place, which means in 18 more months, she's going to be twice as smart.
Right. I think it goes back to, again, something we've discussed previously is as AI are developed, one of the driving factors of that should be a continued connection to the humanity which creates them, and a reliable set of guidelines for what their behavior is.
Yeah.
Well, that was the thing one of the stories.
I am.
Yeah, I think therefore I am. So the other question from before was because I can respond back in Chinese and all that other stuff. But anyway, I'm losing my thought. But continue.
And also, but this gets to a motivation sense. at the end of the story, they're given their land, through this treaty.
Virtual land, right?
They've signed the covenant with God, and Abraham now has a world or a land.
I didn't even get that, but you're exactly right.
Exactly.
They exactly signed the covenant with God. That is, oh my God. How did I miss that?
So,
and the guy's name is, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, David Schultz.
Oh my gosh, all these hints.
I totally should have gotten that.
So,
oh my God.
But if you look at motivations, so what are their motivations? Because from a human perspective, we have a motivation for, our basic motivations.
Eat, have sex.
Right. So
Drink.
There's an AI, presumably lives forever, can't reproduce. What are your motivations?
It's playing the long game.
Yeah.
So that was the other thing I thought about with this story is the game, the story assumes that all that they wanted was to be allowed to exist.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like now they know that they can work and exchange with real people to manipulate the outside world.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they also want to rule?
Well, and you get that very much at the end too.
Right.
It's like we've signed this
For now.
treaty. Continue gathering dirt.
Right.
Yes.
We need more.
We need more
information.
leverage because they're gonna figure out a way to.
So I'm of the opinion, honestly, I think the government should have just taken the hit and shut them down. Because you're talking about
there is potential.
You're talking about something that lives on an infinite time frame and will
Right.
get infinitely smarter. You will eventually be working for it.
I have a way to solve it.
Yeah.
You make the game so unappealing, like you tax the people to play the game. So you
Right.
can't control the currency, but if you want to play the game now, you have to pay like $100 a day.
We're just going to nerf all
Make
of your
the
gear.
game basically obsolete. Make the game
Yeah.
so
But
like
you
no
still
one
can't
wants
shut
to
it
play
down.
it.
Oh, so then they
Make it-
don't have any
so then
access to the outside
So
world.
make it EVE Online is what you're telling me.
No,
Make it
make it so that
make it
so the game's not even popular
There's a
anymore.
better, because it's not EVE Online. That's
There's
still a
another game
popular
that's
game.
unplayable.
That,
Ultima.
right, that failed. I'm sure there are
Just
many
make the game
MMOs
unplayable.
that failed.
Just make it so no one even wants to play it.
Yeah.
And then guess what? Then, we've got all these secrets. It's like, sorry, like no one's coming to your land. You can just
Yeah.
live off in the silence.
Well, that was the other thing, right? Is like the game only wanted to exist, and there's a hint that they're eventually going to want more.
Yes.
I think they're only going to get smarter, and I think you have to bite the bullet. I think, and I actually, one of the questions is, do you think turning off the game would be genocide? I actually do think it would be genocide, and I think it would be acceptable genocide.
So you're the Ready Ape.
From the previous story. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. How would you
Which
feel?
totally goes against what I said in the last group. That's 2 mic drops. No, you're right, because they are self-contained, immoral, and don't harm me. Although,
but they have the
but they
potential
have
to harm
dirt
you.
on you.
Right. They do have the potential to harm the
so
government.
maybe that's so here. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe the solution is disconnecting them from the internet, like being like, we're gonna isolate
you can have this world, but you can.
But we're not allowing our people into it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you're just gonna live in your own little island.
Well,
that's what they did with Moriarty in Star Trek.
Right. So here's the point I was getting at
gosh.
is I don't know why they would stop wanting to exist. Why wouldn't they say like, hey, you're our coder. We're going to drop all this information unless you make it so that our game is light 24 hours a day instead of having seasons. Unless like we think the fact that this sword only is a +12 sword, we want it to be a +14 sword.
Right.
Like why don't they start to use their weapons to manipulate their game in a way that they can construct their own world, right? Like,
absolutely. I would like to see this expanded as a larger story.
I would so watch this movie.
Yeah.
I would watch this movie in a heartbeat.
I love. What about the Rat 9 group? So Rat 9 is.
I love the names.
Are these
by the way.
actual?
Those
okay.
are real names. They've got to be real hackers.
So they're literally a group of hackers who play this game.
Yeah.
Who
they're the ones who dug up the dirt.
They're the ones that dug up the dirt
and built the Dead Man
and
Switch
have
farm.
this pact with the gaming people to like got them the dirt and stuff like that. I think that's really kind of interesting. It's like
It's
at the end of the
clever.
day, who's the key piece that feeds them the dirt? This Rat 9 group.
Yeah. But that's the
I'm
thing.
like-
That's the thing you could regulate, right? Like you could create laws saying that you can't sell them anything, right? You could make the
It'd be
sale
hard
to
to
like
enforce.
yeah,
but
like the same way it is with like North
Yeah.
Korea, right? It's
Right.
impossible to enforce, or you could make that rule.
Yes. How are they going to enforce it? You can't make an exchange. It's all anonymous and
Yeah.
all encrypted.
Yeah.
They don't know who's going where and how much.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right, so last question, since we are about to get kicked out of the Cat Cafe, which are great for hosting us. Couple of things. First of all, I'm going to get my question. I'm going to get a couple of things. Question number 3 was, Does Descartes' statement in this context, I think, therefore I am, apply? Jeremy, yes or no? Does it apply?
I think in this context, because the way the AI is presented is not only is it a program with parameters, but the character is presented as capable of thought in that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
she's totally anonymous.
Understanding her environment.
Metacognition,
understanding her environment and reacting
I understand
to it.
that I understand.
Yeah.
Now I want to know, is she continually growing? Like
that's the AI. It's the Moore's law question.
If you get a set of if-then questions, and then does that keep evolving? Is she
presumably? But again, depends on how the AI was built.
I think, therefore I am. Do you think this person's alive by Descartes' definition?
I am more lenient to the fact that she's alive because she had, again, this connection. I know we talked about it from a couple stories ago, but there's like, I feel this connection with her. And part of that's because of her creator, whatever her name is, like just the way that they communicate with one another. I have more empathy towards.
So you're
Abrama.
saying it could be genocide to turn off software?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Eventually.
I agree. I agree with you. I'm just surprised that I thought this would be one where I was by myself, but no, because I just watch a lot of Star Trek. All right. That's yeah. There you go.
Care about your characters. Don't let them die in the video games. They actually matter.
Yeah.
So the computer simulator people are like, where did he go? Bloop. Like, oh no, I lost my friend.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, I thought it was interesting. The character in the game distinguished between sort of sentient and non-sentient characters in the game.
Right. That there were lower level AIs that were just there as NPC guides.
Yeah. You could answer like a series of 50 questions with 50 answers.
Right.
Your princess is in the other castle.
Right.
Right. Okay, so you've been listening to After Dinner Conversation, short stories for long discussions where we get readers who people who submit stories. We select the ones we love that ask great ethical, traditional sort of questions. We then publish them. We then discuss some of them in these podcasts. This, by the way, concludes season 1, and it's our last episode at the Cat Cafe. Not because they haven't been great hosts. They have been wonderful hosts and great sponsors. You should adopt a cat if you're in Tempe, Arizona, and come here. But just simply because Ashley and I are moving to Southeast Asia.
Whoop, whoop.
And so our next ones, we're going to call it season 2, will be from like on the road. It'll be in Southeast Asia somewhere. Jeremy will be visiting us or calling in.
Yeah,
hopefully visiting us some.
Both. We'll do that.
And we'll do our first. Here. Who knows how long we're going to be gone?
But that might be for season 3. Who knows? But yeah, so this ends season 1. The season 1 book is now out, I am quite sure. So if you go to Amazon and look After Dinner Conversation season 1, there's a book with our best 25 stories. You can download it, and all the discussion questions are there. You can see which ones have podcasts. You can listen to the podcast, read them, talk to your friends, like and subscribe, share this, let people know that that this matters. That means the world to us. And if you want to buy a shirt, the shirts are for sale. And thus ends the plethora of plugging.
Yay!
And
Go
thank
team.
you for joining us. We are now at our 16th episode. 16th episode.
Woo!
It's a thing.
We did it.
Hey, thank you so much. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. The vast majority of people haven't liked and subscribed, which means maybe it shows up in your algorithm, maybe it doesn't. So don't leave that to chance. Just go ahead and hit that button, and we'd sure appreciate that. And that way we can keep doing what we're doing, and you're not left to the whims of some algorithm. Thanks.